It's 9:02. I usually like to start on time. Anyone who's in my band for years can tell you that. Start on time. But Chronicle is here, and I always want to be nice to the papers. First of all, I'm excited to be back in Lorain. The journey for me coming back here was a little strange. You know, I left here in 08. In fact, the first time I came back in this room was the first time I was in this room since I had resigned to go to Sandusky. I was very confident in Sandusky. We had a real good time. We left everything and we moved our whole life to Sandusky, and we live right downtown, and everything's there. Dr. Exton had just been hired when I left, if you remember, and superintendent's here the last 6, 7, 8 years usually, so I figured by that time I was too old and nobody wanted to talk to me anyway. But she had left, and of course they put Dr. Branham in, and I was still, everybody in Sandusky says, "You're staying?" I go, "Yep, I'm staying. I'm going to be here." Everything was going pretty well. The problems we have in Sandusky are identical to the problems in Lorain, and in the state of Ohio anymore, it's not when you go in, it's not if you go in fiscal emergency, it's a matter of when, just because of the nature of our lovely governor and legislatures at the time. Come time when they started the search, March, April, I started receiving a lot of calls from some very, very, what I call prominent people in Lorain, which I respect very highly. Time you need to throw your name in. And I'm real happy. My wife, I asked my wife, and you know my wife, she goes, "You do what you got to do." I had some people call and say, "Tom, would you consider it?" So I started researching the district because I really didn't pay much attention, and I really haven't had contact with a lot of people here. When you're superintendent, you are busy, and you know I throw myself into my work, and I was really enmeshed in Sandusky and a lot of the community and the civic organizations there, and very active. So I started researching, and it was a real eye-opening experience. I called Dr. Branham and told him to fill me in, and about 3 hours later, I went, wow. Sometime in late April, early May, I decided I'd put my name in, put it in. I told my school board in an executive session, and I said, "Don't worry about it. They've never hired a hometown guy. Trust me, seen it happen. They always make the finals, and they're done." So I assumed, as a courtesy, I'd make the top 7 or 8. I just assumed that, because that's usually what happens in these things. And I was in a number of searches. If you remember, I applied to Wellington and a couple other places, and I was told, "Wellington, you're too big city for us." That was 5, 6 years ago. But anyways, as it went along, it was very interesting that things have changed here dramatically, and it's a different district than the one I left. It was very obvious. When I got the call from Tim Williams that I was chosen, it was pretty exciting. It's a big district, and it's a lot of work, and I'm glad to be back here. So let me tell you all the stuff that I plan to do and let you know where we're at and where we're headed, because it's going to be a little different. First of all, you need to know I'm not the same person that I left. I've been an executive, a superintendent. In this district, it was funny. I will tell you this story. Most of you know Nick Cutlock, and he works for me now, which is wonderful. Nick and I used to fight. I was union grievance chair at the time. Nick and I would fight. Nick's a wonderful person. I love Nick dearly. And I asked him, should I apply? And he laughed. And he goes, "You do what you got to do." But in that district, I was Mr. Tucker. You're Mr. Tucker, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Tucker. And a lot of my staff called me Tom. You know me. I'm not in title net. And the people that go, "Oh, I'm doctor." I'm not into that. You know that. But Nick has known me forever and still calls me Tommy. And when I would go down to I was just telling him, I'd go down to this special ed area, and he's a psych down there. I would go down there, and he'd go, "Hey, Tommy," and everybody would go, and Nick would just laugh, and then we'd tell stories about what went on in Lorain. But anyways, when I did get the call, I accepted immediately, and then there was all kinds of rumors about the contract negotiations. What you need to know, and I'm going to be very open with this, my daughter is 25, 26. She works in Columbus, and she had thyroid cancer this year and had her thyroid removed. And in fact, today she's taking the little radioactive pill, the atomic dog, I call her. And my wife and family are down with her today. I'm in Lorain. It's prognosis is great, and there's no real seriousness. In the meantime, my wife had to have her gallbladder out. She's had some real complications with that. So when the contract negotiations were going on, my wife was in the hospital. So in fact, he called me one day. I go, "I'm in the hospital room." So she was in for quite a while, but everything's getting better. So if you think there was issues, it's timing is a lot of it. But anyways, as I was reflecting on what I want to say today, I realized in Lorain I worked for 6 superintendents, and 10 if you include all the interns and the guys that were here a day. And you're around. One year I worked for 5 superintendents in 4 months. 1988. So it was kind of interesting, and looking back of my growing up here, I started school here in 60, 61, so basically I've either been under or worked for or been a student of every superintendent since almost the end of World War II, which is pretty amazing. And I'm only 56. And the reason I say that is I'm aware every time the new dude comes in, whoever that is, whether it's the expert from afar or the local guy moving up, there's always apprehensions and there's always expectations of the staff and what's going to occur. Most of you in here know me. Most of you know how I do business. I'm pretty direct. At my interview with the board, they asked some questions, a lot of questions, but one of the questions they asked about was for doing business or how you do business. And it was interesting where I came from in Sandusky, people are polite at meetings, and that's just the way they do business there. Those of you that work in other organizations know, every organization has a culture. And all cultures are different depending on how they work. And I told the board, I said, I'm a Lorain boy. Born and raised here. My dad, my granddad, my great-granddad, all that. Went through Lorain High the whole bit. Taught at King, taught at Lorain High, and almost every elementary in here. Now, Lorain's direct. If I got an issue, we go toe-to-toe, and then, okay, we go on, we move on. That was not how I had to learn to do business a little differently. And as I was talking to board members that were from Lorain, were kind of chuckling. They go, yeah, that's the way Lorain does business. So that is the way that I fully intend to do this here. One, I don't want excuses. There's enough excuses in this district. You know that I was band director for many years. I couldn't stand up on Friday night and say, well, we're not going to do real well because, well, we have student council meeting, the football team is out, I'm sorry the band's going to be bad. There's no excuses. You have to do what you need to do to get it done, especially this district now and where we're at. I expect a lot of accountability. My accountability is right here. I'm going to be on the front page a lot, and I'm going to take a lot of arrows. I did in Sandusky, that's what you do. That's the nature of my job. So my accountability is every single day when I make decisions in the paper and everybody takes shots at me. And 2, I'll have a 3-year contract when it's up. That's my accountability. I don't have the luxury of what I used to have called tenure. A couple of things is I'm approachable. You can call me what you choose to call me. The only thing I ask is in public, respect the position. Respect the position, because I am superintendent of schools, and when you're in the public, I expect to be to have that respect. You want to call me Tom, Tommy, Mr. Tucker, old band director, I don't care. I'm comfortable with all of that, but respect the position, I would appreciate that. One thing I do want is, we're all going to make mistakes, including me, because that's what we do. If you're not making mistakes and you're not moving forward and doing things. What I expect from my staff is, 1, if you make a mistake, I expect to Tom, I made this mistake, and there's 3 ways we can fix it. That's what's important. You learn from your mistakes and you go forward. Nobody's going to be punished. Nobody's going to be banished off the island unless it's a really stupid mistake. But for the most part, you're going to make mistakes because we're in a crisis mode here where we've got to move forward. I personally believe this district is at a crossroads right now. We've been through the ups and downs, and if you look at the history of the district, this is one thing that's unbelievable. I actually know the history of this district. Where I came from, I kept hearing about the Blue Street mystique and hear all about it. And the only thing we ever talked about there was how they beat Lorain High, and they beat Admiral King, and they always did with the street football, except for a few years. But there were a couple times. My high school principal there was on the high school team that beat Lorain High twice when I was in high school. He was on, we're about the same age. I remember both those. We lost the Ad, we lost the Buckeye Conference. But I know the history here, and I know the culture, I know where we came from. So you can't really tell me that. I'll listen to you, but I pretty much lived it and was pretty active in it. What that helps me do is understand where we are and what the perspective is. And pretty much what I'm going to be doing coming up here is, 1, I'm going to be evaluating and reflecting on the entire district, and that's going to start with this building. The advantage that I see that I have now is I have gone away, I have done something else, I've come back. So I have a historical knowledge, but I also have a little different perspective. I've been extremely active in state organizations at the superintendent level. and talk to a lot of other guys and gals around the district that run districts and are pretty active in state level things and participate in a lot of legislative agendas. I think that's important because that controls what we do. In Sandusky, the legislator down there happens to be the wife of, or the husband of one of my school board members, and here he happens to be my former student. That's great, so I have access to that. That's a good thing. What's the goal or mission that I'm going to have here? This is a real easy answer for me. Some of you, this may be real familiar. What's good for the students of Lorain, and what can we do to make them better? One thing that you will hear from me over and over and over is I really don't care what's good for adults. I really don't care, because we all know we can all take care of ourselves. It's what's good for kids. And every one of us, no matter who we are in this room, affects what happens in that classroom. And one thing that I've really tried to knock down in my career, and especially the last 4 years, is the quote, ivory tower. I'm a big believer in the people in charge need to be close to where the action is and with the students and what's happening there. It makes everybody accountable. And one of the things that was interesting when I went to Sandusky is as assistant superintendent, I went in classrooms, and people were like, superintendent's in my classroom, and then I'd have to keep telling them, no, I'm just here to see what's going on. I miss the kids. I would go do cafeteria duty there. Superintendent doing cafeteria duty. Why? I miss it. I love cafeteria duty at King. You think I'm nuts, but that's where you see the kids and they'll talk to you. What was cool though is then they go, hey, that's that soup dude when they'd see me on the street, man, that's a super dude. But I got to know the kids. And that's for all of us that are active and part of the educational process need to get out there. So you're going to be, I don't want you sitting in your offices. You need to be out there, see what's going on. The other thing it does, it gets communication between the people from the front line to those of us in the ivory tower who think we know everything in the world, because sometimes we really don't. This job that I took is not easy, and I'm aware of that. And especially in the difficult political climate that we're in, and you're all aware of that. And it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. Now, the one thing that I do want to talk about is I'm a big data guy. I was a big data guy when I was here, and I need data. And data also includes all the financial information. I'm also a big financial guy. I was fortunate when I went into HR that the treasurer's office, when I went into HR, you may remember, that was when we laid off like 300 people and Dee had just left, and remember all that? Yeah. Well, I walked into HR, and the first thing is I walked into the treasurer's office and they said, what are you doing in here? We don't talk to HR. I go, but I know you guys and I need your help. And that year, whether it was Ryan or Jack Kaufman, Dale hadn't been hired yet, I learned a whole lot about finance, which really did well for me down the road. And that's a real crucial piece. One thing that we need to make sure we shore up here, and I've done some research, is to make sure that we have the data has to be correct, whether it's the EMIS data for the personnel or the student, because it's a lot of money we're leaving on the table that we have to make sure is correct. And I expect a lot of transparency and honesty in a lot of those areas, including grants and those things, to make sure that we don't have to waste our time defending ourselves on something that we know that we all know what's right to do and what isn't right to do. All my decisions are going to be based on that data and the information that I receive, so it better be correct. I don't make gut decisions. I'm not one of those, well, I think it's the right thing to do. Same thing in the classroom. When you teach in the classroom, well, I think that's what the kids need. No, do the data and see if that's what they really need. If that's what they really need, then you go for it. It's real simple. It's not rocket science. It's just hard work. Central offices around the state, around the country, are lightning rods for criticism. You know that. I read all about it when I decided to come back here, read about it in Sandusky. In fact, in Sandusky, the last thing that I did was close the administration building. If you've ever been there, it's a gorgeous building that used to be a national headquarters for a paper company. It's closing and they're moving into the high school building. And that's a real visible thing. A lot of people are doing that. So over the next 2 to 3 months, I've already met with the senior staff here, whatever the proper term is. I don't know. You know, every I'm so old I remember clusters. If you know. I mean, I can go through and name them all. So I'm not big in titles too. I was like real impressed. I got my new cards. All my staff currently said, "Oh, can we get your cards so we can email you and keep you and see?" Yeah. So I passed on. They went, "Ooh, CEO." Okay. Well, Dr. Sanders is replacing me in Sandusky, and he's from Cleveland, and he was the CEO of Cleveland. So I'm superintendent of schools. I guess CEO too. But what I'm going to be doing over the next 2 to 3 months is I met with the senior staff. I will probably meet with all of you at some point in time. I will be just popping in your offices to see what you're doing. That's just me. Am I checking up on you? Yeah, kind of. But I'm a people person, and those of you know me, I like to talk. I like to talk to people. And I want to hear the good, the bad. I know what the complaints are going to be. But there are good things here. There are good things happening, but nobody ever talks about it. And it's always been that way here. Here's what I found. Somebody says, well, what'd you find when you came back to Lorain? And I go, here's what I found. There's a lot of professional people in this building. And I was amazed when I met with the people that, and this didn't happen in other places I've gone, 3 ring binders, everything, all lined up, all organized. This is a lot better than you think you are. Really, really, really. A lot of you know that, but you really are. There's a lot of real professional people. And we need to capitalize on that rather than stabbing everybody in the back and doing whatever it is that we do. Now, what's going to happen is at some point this year, I'll be reorganizing this entire complex, or whatever we call it now. And what that means is we need to be leaner and meaner. Example, in Sandusky, there's about 3,500 kids, and they have exactly the same that we have here. They have career tech, they have adult ed, they have all that. There's only 5 people with about 6 or 7 secretaries that run the whole place. There aren't many. So this district, somewhat here, Dr. Brandon has done an incredible job this last year organizing. But this district is down, approaching 7,000 students, and we're going to have to reflect that. So that means a reorganization and combining some positions and combining some things. So that is something that we'll be doing, and I'll be making that determination over the next 2 to 3 months, and I'll be talking to everybody. And I'm sure I will hear everything that I need to know on that. And decisions are going to be based on the support that's needed for student success, and it's not going to be based on we've always had that position or, well, we've always done it that way. There are better ways to do things. So that's one thing, and it isn't like we're reinventing the wheel here. There's a whole lot of successful models, a lot of successful districts that are doing the right things. And I'm a big believer in let's go out and ask them. Let's go out and see where there's success. I'm sure you can all say, oh, my sister, my blah, blah, blah works at blah, blah, and if this works there. And there's other places, oh, you don't want to go there. But we are going to be looking at models to do that. That needs to be done sooner rather than later. So that is going to be a priority for me, and it's a priority for the Board of Education. Once again, we will be moving some of the leadership closer to where the actual business is taking place, which is in the building. One of the things that I'm going to ask, and time and time again, is you want to be part of a winning team. Nobody wants to play for the Indians. Nobody. Right now. They did that, or the Browns. Would you rather play for the Steelers or the Browns? And I hate the Steelers. But believe me, the one thing that was nice was when I went to Sandusky, we went to the playoffs in football. We won 9 straight games. I hadn't been on that in Lorain in a long time. It was wonderful. But that whole winning thing. The only way, nobody says I want to be on that loser. So what we have to do is make sure that everybody's on the winning team. And I need people that want to be on that team. If you don't want to be on my winning team, I will do everything in my power to get you to a team you want to be on. And I'm going to tell that to my principals and my teachers and everybody else. We're a winning team. My time here is short. Superintendents, it's great. You stick them on a shelf, and after about 3 or 4 years, you put a fork in and you go, you're done. That's how it works. It isn't like when I was teaching. I got tenure. I'm good till I'm out of here. So my time is short. And whether that's 3 years or 6 or 7 or however it plays out, because you never know what the future holds, I'm committed to making this work, and I need a successful leadership team. And once again, I say, if you'd rather not be on that leadership team, and you'd rather not be part of that winning team, please let me know. I have a lot of connections in the state. We'll find that team that you want to be on. If you want to be on that loser, we can get you there. But I just don't see that. Relationships are everything. One of the big initiatives that I'm going to be working on is customer service, and you're going to get tired of hearing that. We are not the only game in town. I'm old enough to remember, if you don't like Lorain Schools, tough. Pay to go to St. Anthony's or pay to go to parochial school. That was your choices in life. The legislature says, not anymore. I'll take my $5,785 and I'll go to name the school. And they can go anywhere. And when you talk to those folks, now I haven't dealt with the community schools here, but the ones we have over in my other county, when you talk to those parents and you look at those schools, how many of them are better, have better report cards? Probably, there's a few. Most of them are not. What do they like about community schools? One thing. They treat me nice, they say hello in that community office. If you go to any of these places, and I'm sure you go to a lot of fast food places, you walk in and some go, what do you want? As opposed to, can I help you? There's a Wendy's that I go to that is the quickest Wendy's I've ever seen. They've gotten all kinds of awards on Cleveland Road. Can't go anymore, but on Cleveland Road. And I always have that as an example because, man, you go in there, hi, what can I do for you? Step here, your order will be up. It's the most incredible place I've ever seen. Everybody goes there. Why? Because they're treated nice, the food's quick, it's hot, and they treat you nice. And that's what we need to do. One of the standard jokes, one of the buildings I taught at, which will remain nameless, was the reputation of that building was, welcome to such and such, what the H do you want? And that was the attitude. Whether that was true or not, that was a perception. And sometimes that's a perception. What I will be doing is calling different people and offices and schools, and I'll direct my people to call that. Not from my cell phone, not from my phone that says Tucker up there. And see what reaction we get. Are the customers we deal with difficult? Absolutely. Because by the time they come in, they're angry. And as principal, guess who they always wanted to talk to? Me. Well, you know what? My job was to calm them down, because usually you found out what the issue was some stupid thing that occurred 6 times down the road that some adult blew them off. That's usually what it was. Now there's the occasional one, they're angry, there's nothing you're going to do about it. And that happens. That's usually rare. So that is one thing, no matter where we're at, we need to really do that. So if I may have conversations with people, very hard conversations about that. You've got to be nice to everybody. We have a lot of positive opportunities. You are the sales force for this district. You are the sales force. And I got to tell my teachers that, and my principals and everybody else. Because I can stand up here and I can go to every events and every group out in the world and give beautiful speeches. I've seen superintendents give great speeches. And then the speech is over, and what happens? What's it really like over there? Oh man, it's terrible, terrible. So all the positives are about that little comment. And that's crucial. As I used to tell my kids, if you haven't got anything nice to say, just don't say it. Just go housework. Getting by. Not, oh, let me tell you. So that's one thing we need to work on. And you being the leaders and the lightning rod, we've got to do that. When I was out in the trenches for 20 plus years, everybody wanted to know the scoop of Charleston. What's going on? And you know, I was active in the union for 20-some years, and then I was a building principal, and then I came over here. And it was really funny because a lot of my union leadership would go, what's it like over there? What's it really like down in the inner circle? And I went, you know what it's really like? Here's what I found out. There's no conspiracy. And the people over at Charleston are just working as hard as us, just trying to get by to do the right job. Oh, you're kidding. I'm going, I'm not kidding. It's really what they're doing. There's no conspiracy, because everybody thinks there's a conspiracy. Everybody thinks you all sit around, how can we screw so-and-so? It just doesn't happen. That's one reason I like to throw things open and be pretty open on that. And a lot of that is the comments that we all make, including me. And it's real easy to do the flip funny comment, but we've got to really change that. I have high expectations for myself, I always have. I hope to meet those. I can't do it alone here. I'm just the leader. I got to drag everybody along. Leadership to me is getting people to do what they don't necessarily want to do, or it's difficult to do, but it's the right thing to do. One thing that has been very interesting is I've probably gotten 100, 120, 150 letters, phone calls, including to my mom. My mom's lived in, mom and dad lived in the same house since the 60s, so they're getting all the calls. I'm amazed at the people that say, we'd like to help you. We want to help. People that I haven't heard from in decades. So this district has a lot of interest, and this city has a lot of interest in making it work. And I got a letter from somebody I went to high school with, who I haven't seen in 20, 30 years, which is in Washington, D.C. now, has said, I get back there, I can be an advisor, I have some connections, but can I help? I just want to help my hometown. Absolutely. I will take any help. One thing I do is partner with a lot of folks, and we are not an island anymore. And we'll be reaching out for that. The one thing I do want is, I really don't want any excuses. Oh, we can't do that because. What I'd rather hear is, we can do that, but we need this. Because we are so good at excuses. We are so good at excuses here. I hope that's inspirational. I know everybody's going, well, what's he mean, he's reorganizing? I've heard that before. I just need to know, because right now he asked me, what's going on here? How, what's the value of this? I don't know right now what the value of everybody does and what their jobs do. I know what your titles all say, and I know what you did when I left, but I need to know. I need to know, and I'm going to be working through that. And grants are a priority. Those of you that don't know everything I've done a whole lot of stuff. One, I taught for 20 plus years. I was a band director, also was extremely active in the union. I negotiated most contracts for 20 years. I was on the grievance side, did grievances. I was vice president, so I got all that stuff over there. I was an OEA delegate and was active in the state there. Moved up to principal at Admiral King, did all that. We made some academic gains there, did very well. From that point, I moved into HR, so I did HR. That was a fun year. It was a very fun year. Somebody had the wisdom to move Juanita out, and they said Juanita was going out, and they gave me the key, and I said, you got to be kidding. But I learned a lot about HR, which is a good thing that a lot of superintendents don't have. I'm telling you, they don't have that. And I was extremely fortunate. I was a principal that we were under the small schools thing, and at that time we had a ton of money, and every month we ended up going down to Columbus and learned from some of the greatest curriculum people in the world, so I got beat up on that, which has served me extremely well, because that's why we're here, the curriculum piece. And then when I went to Sandusky, the superintendent at the time said, okay, I see you don't know busing, you don't know food service, you don't know operations. That's what you're doing here. Oh, and you're doing HR. So that's what I did at Sandusky. So I learned the busing route, and I was in charge of the transportation and the food services and the operations, which was really good, which was an area that I just didn't have expertise in. The only area I really don't have a lot of expertise in, but I'm learning more than I wanted, was preschool. A lot more than I have. Yeah.
Come on in.
I'll tell you about, here's my number on preschool right now. John Kasich stands and says, preschool's the greatest thing in the world. And the last thing I checked was Ohio was dead last in funding for preschool. I don't know if it's changed. It probably still is. I haven't checked this year. So that, and here preschool is everything.
It's phenomenal.
It's everything. It's because I saw our crawl scores, and it said shut. And then, of course, I was superintendent. So I've got a depth and breadth of different areas that I can at least know enough about it that I have those areas. I fully intend to be active here, and so you know, as soon as my wife gets home from taking care of my daughter, my mom and my wife and my dad are going to look for a place for us to live here. We're going to keep the place in Sandusky because property isn't selling, you know that. Yeah, if you've ever tried to sell anything. So everybody knows I will be a resident of Lorain, which sounds so funny. I was resident here for 40 years, and I'm coming home. So, and you read in the paper, I do drive a Ford. This is Lorain. Sandusky's the same way. First thing I pulled in, superintendent doesn't drive foreign for a change. It's all right, I've always driven Fords or Chevys, one or the other. That's just what you drive, sorry. Lorain, it's what you do. So I'll be meeting with people, and we'll be going through that. I am glad to be back. It's really weird to know almost everybody in the room. It is, I'm telling you, it is weird, because I used to be you, but I'm not anymore. Now I wear the suit and ties every day. So thank you. I am very glad to be here, and I know you'll all work hard and try and turn this around. We got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. So I will be listening for your input, advice, criticisms, etc., etc. And you can criticize me. I don't care. It just doesn't bother me anymore. When you get old, you don't care. You got to do what's right. So, like I said, don't be scared when I pop in the rooms. Thank you. And.